Welcome back to another episode of Meet the Rookies. Today's episode is about Isack Hadjar. If you haven't already, we posted a video about Gabby Bortoleto last week. So make sure you go follow and watch that one as well. We are going to tell you the whole career, his whole career leading up to him joining the F1 grid this year. Yep. I said this week, not yet. This year. Wish. I know. But before we get started, make sure you are following us. Make sure you are subscribed. Go follow us on TikTok and on Instagram as well, because we do post on there quite a bit. We will be keeping up on there with all of the drama and news leading up to the start of the F1 season. But for now, let's go ahead and get right on into Isack Hadjar and how he came to be where he is now.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Last week for Gabby, I did the research and then told it to Celine. And this week she's going to do the research on Isack and tell it to me.
Yes. So, Isack Hadjar, he's a 20-year-old race car driver, and he is going to be driving for RB this year. The way that he came to get his seat is Taylor's oldest time with Red Bull. He's been in the driver program for a while, which I do talk about a little bit in his career time span, his timeline. But he got the seat because Checo was moved out for Red Bull. Liam Lawson moved up from RB into Red Bull, and then he took over the RB seat. Yeah, I didn't know much about his career, honestly. The most that I knew about his career was just how it intertwined with Gabby Bortoleto's career. And mostly only kind of focusing on the most recent season of F2. So I was able to do a deep dive, and I actually found out a lot of interesting facts about him. So we're going to go ahead and kind of get started.
Let's do it.
Okay. So he was born September 28th, 2004 in Paris. He is French and Algerian, but he does drive under the French flag. His father was a race car mechanic, but he claims that he got his passion for racing from the Pixar movie Cars.
Oh, well, yes.
Which, like, yeah, so did everybody in that generation. Like, Liam Lawson is shaking. Liam Lawson's shaking in his boots right now.
Oh, Liam Lawson is shaking in his boots.
I don't think he's as obsessed with Lightning McQueen in current day as Liam Lawson is, but he does claim that he used to love that movie, and that's what got him interested in racing to start with.
Love that for him.
He started in karting competitively at 7 years old. And then eventually moved into junior formula in 2019. By then he was age 15, where he was doing the single-seaters. So he participated in French F4. And actually in his very first year, he got third in French F4. And then he moved into Formula Regional European Championship in 2021 and finished 5th in his rookie season. He also ended up getting multiple wins that season. So already he just really was successful in both seasons of his first, single-seaters. That carried on over into F3. So in 2021, while he was doing Regional European Championship, he did do a seat test for High Tech, for the F3 High Tech team. And then that's the team that he ended up joining the following year when he started in F3 in 2022.
Gotcha.
Oh, he did F3 for High Tech in 2022. He also participated with High Tech in Formula Regional Asia.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Wow.
Yes.
Busy.
I didn't cover too much of his Formula Regional Asia career. I've mainly focused on his F3. So in his F3 year, he also was picked up by Red Bull. So he had been with the Red Bull driver program for quite a while, all the way from 22 during his F3 season. And he started out really strong. So when reading about his career, it was so interesting, and I was telling Grace this before we started filming this video, is that he had a lot of run-ins and a lot of crashes and bumps and bruises with a lot of notable names that we know now. So I've seen, Ollie Behrman talked about a lot, Gabby Bortoleto, obviously, for the F2 season, the most recent one. We talked about, they talk about Clem Novalak, Enzo Fittipaldi, all of these names that we know, he has a history with a lot of people. I don't know if that's going to affect his relationships in F1 at all. I don't know how,
or if it carries over.
If it carries over, I can't tell if it is something that was also off track. I didn't look into his friendships or anything like that with off track, but on track he gets into some problems with a lot of different drivers.
Yeah.
But starting in F3, he started off really strong. He won his very first sprint race.
Nice.
Now he won this after Ollie technically won, got a penalty, and because of that, he ended up inheriting that first place win. But
very similar to Gabby.
Very similar, which we see happen quite a bit in F3 and F2 is like penalties come in after the race is over, so that kind of changes the standings. But while he was really strong in his first sprint race, his feature race on that same weekend, he did end up finishing 25th due to a puncture. So while he was probably on a bit of a high that first weekend, it didn't last very long. His next race in Imola, he again had a collision with another notable name that we know, which is Kyle Collette, who is doing Indy next. He's doing the Indy next this year, right?
Yeah.
And that caused him to drop down a bit more and finishing in 5th. In the Imola feature race, he also benefited from, again, Ollie's crash, which caused him to move up to 3rd, but it did give him his first podium in F3 in Imola. Very exciting. A big moment for him, and the moment that caused people to kind of see him as a championship contender in F3 happened in Spielberg, where he took pole position and he converted that pole position into a win. He led the race from lights out to the finish line in the rain. Wow. Like, that is a big moment. So many things can happen go wrong, can slide off. So the fact that he was able to keep that lead the whole time was really successful. He did that race and people were like, oh, this guy, he's someone to watch.
Was he already signed with Red Bull at this point?
I believe so, yes.
So doing it in Spielberg, pretty...
I actually don't know what month they signed him.
Oh, okay.
So I know it was in his F3 year, but I don't know what month it happened.
Okay.
But it was a super close title fight in F3 between 7 drivers. That's another thing we talk about a lot is F2 and F3. All of the racing is so much closer than like F1, where like it's pretty a lot of times spread out, like a couple seconds between like race leader and, you know, not always, but a lot of times where like it was a title fight between 7 different drivers. And due to some mistakes that happened in Spa and Monza, he did end his F3 career that year. He only did 1 year of F3. He ended that season in 4th place in the standings.
That's, honestly, for a rookie season, that's not bad.
Amazing, yeah. At the end of the year, he ended up having 3 wins, a pole from Spielberg. He had 5 podiums and a total of 123 points.
Nice.
Yes. From there, during his F3 season, he also tested for High-Tech's F2 team. So, he did 2 years in F2. He did both 2023 and 2024. His 2023 year, not good.
Aww.
It was not good. He stuck with High-Tech for his first rookie season in F2. Mm-hmm. His teammate was Jack Crawford, who was also in the Red Bull driving program. And yeah, it did not start off well. He ended up in his very first race in F2 in 20th. And it was pretty much just a season full of misfortune and bad luck for him. A lot of crashes, a lot of his car not working, a lot of stalls, that kind of thing. And he ended up his rookie season in F2 in 14th place. He was able to do another year of F2. So 2024 is definitely the year that like he is known for.
Coming alive.
Yeah, he's coming alive. He did switch teams. He ended up switching to Campos Racing.
Mm-hmm. I did know.
Yes, and he was on the team with Pepe Marti, who is also an RB reserve driver. His first race, unfortunately, he was taken out, and I do think it's funny to me that he was taken out by 2 Brazilians. They were against him for some reason. He was spun out by Gabby, and then as he was spun out by Gabby, he was taken out by Enzo Fittipaldi. Oops. Enzo, one thing about Enzo I know for sure, he didn't mean it.
Well, no.
It was an accident.
No, neither did Gabby.
After that first race, he probably was like, gosh, it's going to just pretty much be continuing as the same. As we know now, it didn't continue that way. It did get better. Again, it took some time for him to kind of find his pacing. Jeddah, he also retired from both the feature and the sprint race in one weekend. He got no points that weekend.
Oy.
Tough.
F2 is sometimes, like, pretty cutthroat. Mm-hmm. With, like, a lot of times after the F3 season is done, if there's, like, a driver not up to par, they'll replace them with an F3 driver in that, like, same season.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, I feel like he got...
The fact that he got 2 chances.
Yeah.
I don't know much about his history. I know that F2 is really expensive to participate in.
It is.
I mean, in F1, you have sponsors, you have people kind of paying for your seat for you, but in F3 and F2, you're kind of paying for your own seat. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that he comes from a wealthy enough family that they're able to give him that extra year. But it is shocking that he was able to kind of continue for a second season after such a not great season in 2023.
Yeah.
So, Melbourne, he had a notable moment again where he squeezed Pepe into Gabby, and this is actually the moment that you said got you into F2.
It did.
So he squeezed his teammate, and he ended up winning that race. Both Gabby and Pepe were taken out.
Yeah.
He won that race, but then he was given a 10-second penalty, which knocked him down. So he did lose that win, but then he went back the next day and won in the feature race. And this race, and this weekend specifically, ended up with the French media giving him the nickname Petit Prost.
Petit Prost?
Which is a big role
That is a
to
huge
fill.
role to fill.
And it's also just so interesting that of all of, like, the great, you know, we had Pierre, we have Esteban, these great French drivers, like, Isack is coming in, and I think he's showing, like, a little bit more aggression and, like, hunger that the French media definitely was a big fan of, so.
Yeah, they're loving it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I realized why I got confused because in both crashes you talked about, the first race in Australia, it was him and Gabby a part of it, so that's why earlier I thought you were talking about Australia.
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
I've got it now.
Yeah, so that was his first race win, and then he ended up getting his second feature race win in Imola after defending pretty hard against Gabby, that's where Gabby also got his first F2 podium, as we learned in last week's episode.
Sure did.
He was really successful in Monaco as well. He originally was leading for majority of the race, and then he ended up being overtaken and taking second. But Monaco also had an iconic moment from him this was like the very first time that I, like, registered and, like, became aware of his presence.
Yes.
Was the tunnel incident. I don't even know whose car was stalling.
Another
F2 driver's car stalled in the tunnel, and he pulled into a place that was, like, the worst possible place that you could.
But he was going so slow.
He's going so slow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't stopped completely, but he's going so slow on the inner side of the tunnel to where when you're coming around that curb, you cannot see him. And Isack Hadjar was coming very, very fast behind him. The last second swerved out of the way. It was so insane of a video to watch. I watched it like 50 times in a row.
Whenever it pops up on, like, TikTok or Instagram or something, I sit and watch it.
No, you have
crazy.
to.
And, like, you can just see, like, his hand movements, how he does it so quick.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Reflexes,
yeah,
fantastic. And that, I think, is such an iconic moment. Like, even when it was announced that he was taking over this F1 seat, some of our friends who don't follow F3 and F2 were, like, asking us, they're like, what's the deal with this guy? And I was like, he's the tunnel guy. And they're like, that's the tunnel guy? Because they know the situation, they know the video, they just didn't know that it was Isack Hadjar doing that.
Yeah.
So many people don't know that. But yeah, he has that iconic moment and very scary moment. I'm glad everyone was okay. But he did end up getting his first F2 pole in Silverstone, and then ended up winning the race after, again, Jack Crawford technically won, got a penalty, so Isack Hadjar was able to take the win there. While Monza was great for Gabby Bortoleto, it was very bad for Isack. He ended up getting no points that weekend. This is when they were already super close in that championship battle. It was really, at this point, pretty much just Gabby or Isack. And that was, I think, the weekend that Isack had a pretty healthy lead. This weekend kind of evened the playing field, and I'm assuming Isack Hadjar was probably shitting himself. Right?
No, absolutely. I just did not think you were about to say that.
He's probably shitting himself.
Yeah, I mean,
I would be too.
That's just not... You have this great lead, and you're feeling... Obviously, they're never comfortable.
Right.
But you're feeling slightly comfortable, and you're like, okay, I have this.
It's like one of those situations, like that we saw with, like, Max and Lando last year. And it was like, Max is so far ahead. The only way that Lando would kind of catch up is if, like, Lando won the race and Max DNF'd. And, like, that was probably what, like,
that's what
people
happened.
were talking about. And that's exactly what happened with him.
Like, it's what we we're hoping would have happened in Brazil.
Right.
Max
Exactly.
starting in 17th and Lando on pole.
That's what we wanted. We didn't get.
Yeah.
But it happened for them. And again, this is where his bad luck kind of comes back again. So basically, going into Abu Dhabi, the last race of the year, or the last race weekend of the year, before the weekend started, they were 0.5 points apart. After the sprint race, they were 4.5 points apart. So it was still close. Anyone could have won at that point. Unfortunately, the very first lap of the future race, he ended up stalling. And at that point, he basically lost his chance to win the championship.
Yeah.
And while I'm happy Gabby won because I'm a huge Gabby Borletto fan, it's heartbreaking imagining being so close to winning. And like, he didn't win his F3 season. He didn't win his he had a really bad, not really bad, but a unsuccessful F2 rookie season. He like needed this.
Yeah.
He was already kind of being talked about with Red Bull and RB. So many eyes were on him because there was that always those rumors that Checo was leaving.
Yes.
And then there's always the, okay, who's stepping into the Red Bull seat. At this point, Daniel Ricciardo was dropped and, like, pretty much just been, like, okay, like, written off. Like, nothing's going to happen with that.
Next down the line is Isack.
Next down the line to move into RB would be Isack. And he had a lot of pressure on him.
So much.
And unfortunately, he was not able to... And it wasn't even his fault. It was the car.
I was just about to ask that. Was it his or the car?
It was the car.
Oh, that's
It was a mechanical
heartbreaking.
thing. So, yeah. Thankfully... even though he didn't win, he was runner-up for the F2 season. He did get a seat in Formula One. He was one of the 5/6 rookies that we have. But all in all, I think that him moving into Formula One is super exciting. He ended up in September getting promoted to the official RB and Red Bull reserve driver. Whenever Liam moved into the RB seat.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, he already kind of had that possibility to step in. And then whenever, again, late last year, Checo was announced that he was no longer in it and they moved Liam up, it was announced pretty soon after that Isack would be taking over the extra RB seat with Yuki.
Yeah, they did it, like, in succession of, like, 3 days.
It was a very...
Like,
everyone knew it was happening,
Yeah.
but... Once Checo was announced, it was pretty obvious that things would be following.
For sure. Somebody, the day that it was announced that, like, Checo dropped, somebody tweeted and said, "Congratulations, Isack Hadjar, to your new F1 seat," or something.
Yeah.
Like everybody knew.
Everybody knew. I am super interested to see how he does this year, specifically with the Red Bull team, specifically with Yuki. We talked a little bit about it in our F1 2025 predictions video about how we think the rookies will be with their teammates. And I do think that out of all of the rookies getting teammates, he's coming in to a team where there's a lot of tension, and Yuki's already going to be a little bit jaded about the fact that he didn't get the Red Bull seat and Liam did. Even though Yuki's been with the team longer, he's been able to outperform Liam many times.
I wonder if Yuki's just let it go. I wonder if he's letting go and letting God.
It's Yuki. You think he's letting that go?
I mean, it's gonna be there in the back of his mind, but I don't know.
I think he's gonna come in with a chip on his shoulder.
I think he'll be like...
And I think Yuki's gonna be like, okay, I don't think he was necessarily, like, nurturing to Liam, but I do think he was like, okay, like, I'm gonna help him out. He's a rookie coming in, and then that rookie stole his chance at a Red Bull seat. What are the chances he's gonna do it again with Isack? Is he gonna help out Isack when something happens, Liam's not performing? Well, now it's Yuki against Isack for that seat, which it shouldn't be. And I don't think it will. I think Yuki would move in. But, how is Yuki feeling about this? No, I'm interested to see how Isack does with his teammate, with his team. Red Bull is pretty cutthroat with their drivers in the past, especially their drivers that don't have a huge amount of sponsorship and the whole country of Mexico behind them. What are your thoughts?
I think Isack is going to get the full year, and Red Bull and RB are staying the same for 2025.
For 2025? Yeah.
Well...
Do you think he's going to come in and be successful? Like, how do you think he's going to do compared to Yuki?
I think I said this in our prediction episode, Yuki's going to outscore him know, though. I feel like he'll hold his own, but, like, I don't think he's coming in guns a-blazing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I just think he has such, like, a reputation for being really, like, aggressive and competitive.
Yeah.
That I do wonder. I mean, I get it because most people in the Red Bull driving program are like that. They're kind of, like, like, raised to be that way in their racing career. But it is just interesting, like, compared to the other rookies. I also feel like we always hear, which they were on the same team, but we see all the other rookies interacting so much more. Like, even, like, Jack, who wasn't even in F2 at the same time, like, we see so much more, like, crossover with him and Ollie and him and Kimmy, and, like, Isack was added on later in the time before the end of, he didn't get a chance to kind of be there, but, like, we didn't even hear much about him being, like, the reserve driver, and we didn't see him interact a lot with the other drivers as the reserve driver either.
I feel like it a little bit,
like, do you think he's coming in as, like, the, like, outsider as far as the rookies go?
Slightly, like, I don't. But I feel like just like the Red Bull situation wise, he got a little swept under the rug because it was all so focused on Daniel, and then like the whole season was focused on, is Daniel going to be strong enough to keep the RB seat? Is Daniel going to be strong enough to kick Checo out of his seat? And then it was like, wait a minute, is Checo going to be strong enough to keep his seat? Like, I feel like it was all too focused on these two, like, big name good drivers. Yeah, that he was just, and it's like, oh, and Isaac's the reserve now, and then it was like, oh, Danny got kicked out, Liam's in, Isaac's reserve, and then it was like, Checo got kicked out, Liam's in, Isack, and again. Like, I don't know, I feel like it was so focused on the other people. Yep. And then also, like, coming in, people were upset that Yuki didn't get the seat, and then I don't know, it was kind of like, oh, we knew this was happening, like we said, and they're like, okay, well, like, Isaac's here. I don't know, I feel like just slightly got swept under the rug. People are still talking about him, and I think he's going to have a great season, but I feel like just talk about it a little less. Yeah. I do think he's definitely, I think, more well-known than Gabby. But I do think that he is still really, like, in the shadows compared to, like, the media that, like, Kimmy and Ollie and Jack are getting. Like, Jack just in general because he's been with Alpine for so long. But I think Kimmy and Ollie are coming in as, like, they're going to be the rookies that, like, the casual viewers know and care about, really. I think that they're going to be the ones that people are watching more. Obviously, because Kimmy's coming into Mercedes, which is one of the higher teams. For 12 years. Exactly. And also the fact that Ollie's already participated in many F1 races and been successful in those F1 races. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see if as media starts happening and as they start doing the press conferences and the interviews, if they're able to kind of get the fans behind them. It'll be really interesting. I'm like, because I feel like we've talked about this before too. I know this is Isaac's episode about how, like, Gabby was, like, the least well known, but I think Stake has been in the past and still will be so good at their social game that everyone is going to be like, who is this kid? Yeah. I don't know, and I feel like that could, like, I feel like it's so harsh to be like, this is the rookie that people know the least about or whatever, but, like, I feel like there could be a chance that it does. Or he could come, knock it out of the park, and be scoring points in all the races. Well, it's an RB. It's an RB still. But, I mean, we never know with the new year coming in what the car is going to look like. It's just so interesting because we do all of these, like, meet the rookie videos, and we do our research, but we really research their, like, their careers. Yeah. But we don't know much about their personal lives. We know more about Kimmy and Ollie, again, because they're all over social media, and people, like, Ferrari did a great job of, like, highlighting Ollie and the time that he spent with that team, and Prema does a fantastic job with, kind of getting their F2 and F3 drivers, like, exposure on social media where the other teams don't focus on it as much. So I feel like we know more about, like, how Kimmy and Ollie are and Jack are in, like, interviews and in personality wise, but, like, even Gabby, who we really support, like, I haven't seen a bunch of interviews of Gabby and how he interacts with the media and how he interacts with other drivers, and definitely even less so for Isack. Yeah. So, like, there's, like, the whole other side of things as far as, like, personality wise, like, how is he gonna do? And even, like, with Jack, he was like a co-anchor for F1 TV for so
long.
Oh,
they absolutely loved him.
They loved him so
Will
much.
Buxton was writing poetry about him and how excited he was that he got a seat. So.
Which, like, me too, Will Buxton. But, like, it's just another add-on to, like, for Gabby and Isack, how we, like, haven't seen kind of that of them.
Yeah. So
very, very interesting to see. I'm excited for a season.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We're going to do some more Meet the Rookie videos. We don't really know who we're going to do next. Maybe Jack?
Let's do Jack next.
Let's do Jack next. So, so you'll be able to keep an eye out for that video, hopefully coming next week. But yeah, all in all, we're going to continue to keep you all updated throughout the season on how the rookies are doing. We'll do a little rookie report.
A rookie report.
Rookie report.
Absolutely.
I just came up with that just now. But we'll do a rookie report maybe on our TikTok to kind of keep you updated on how they're doing and checking in with them specifically. And I don't know. I think it's just an interesting year where we have a lot of rookies, so I'm excited.
I cannot wait to see.
That is all for the Meet the Rookies, so thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching. Bye.